Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. As usual, we're going to have a great day for you today. Welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin is in the house. We also have Paul Fleming checking in from ATL. So let's see where we got, folks. Michael Rudnin, New York, Brooklyn. Paul Fleming, Atlanta, Georgia. Melanie Keeler, Barcelona, Spain. Bridge MCP, upstate New York. Para ver qué más está aquí. We also have Peggy Lopez, California. Alistair Waters in Conroe, Texas. And we have Lee Grant in, I think, somewhere up in Montgomery County. See, I remember my peeps, man. I remember my peeps. We have E2247. I can't remember. I don't remember my Pete. Yvette Avery Herod in Atlanta, Georgia. Paul Fleming again in the house. Okay. Let's get started. Let's get started with a great show. Bridge MCP says, green groups sue. Say farmers are drying up Great Salt Lake. The state of Utah is not doing enough to save its imperiled Great Salt Lake and stop an impending ecological collapse, according to a lawsuit filed Wednesday by the national and western environmental groups. The suit filed in Utah State Court seeks an injunction that would force state leaders to come up with a comprehensive plan to prevent the lake from drying. Last year, state lawmakers did put hundreds of millions of dollars towards conservation and other water-saving rules, but the groups say it amounted to baby steps. The lawsuit follows a recent report by scientists at Brigham Young University and other institutions warning that the Great Salt Lake could dry up within 5 years. Scientists put most of the blame on upstream water diversion for alfalfa farming and a recent population boom. Drought and climate change are also believed to be a factor in the lake's decline, albeit much smaller. Let me see if I recall correctly. The Salt Lake is not drinkable water. I think if I remember correctly, it is in fact Salt Lake, right? So that is interesting, but it does have an ecology around it. I imagine there are a lot of birds and stuff that actually lives in that Salt Lake. I don't know the history. I would be very happy to find out. Let's see what else we got. Peep, equal people. Welcome aboard. Lee Grant says, y'all, hi y'all. And para ver quién más está aquí. Okay, we're getting lots of solar energy today in Southeast Texas. We're at 101 degrees, according to Lee Grant. According to my temp, we're still showing 99 degrees, but that's hot enough, not too far from 101. Hey, today was a crazy day. Today, I have my slab have interesting problems, and I brought in Ramjack to take a look at it. It's going to be a pretty penny to go ahead. Don't water your slabs. And even that may not work in places like Houston where you have clay soil that once the water drains, the whole thing falls in. You know, it just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and it messes with your slab, and your slab tilts and do all kinds of things. Costs you an arm and a leg. Don't forget it. All right. E2247 is in the house. He says, Mitako Yawasa, Petu Wabi. All my relatives, good day. Today's visit will be the greatest ever. As usual, that's my man. Paul Fleming says, a black man by the name of Leonard Mack, who was wrongly convicted of rape nearly 5 decades ago, was exonerated on his 72nd birthday. For 48 long years, I walked about society being labeled a rapist when I know I didn't do it, Max said. And what else did he say? He was cleared through DNA evidence that didn't exist at the time of his conviction. Another man was matched to the crime and confessed 48 years later. I tell you what, the justice system is a dangerous thing. One of the things I try to do all of the times, is to run away as far as I can. As far as I can, I run away from the justice system in this country, because I always know that if it's my word against somebody else's, my word doesn't matter. So I stay as far as way I can from the American justice system. Anyway, British MCP says, Lee, been 100 here for 4 days so far. Wait a minute. Are you saying in upstate New York, you in the Hudson River Valley, you had 100-degree temperature? You know, when I was over there, it was a bit hot in August, but the mornings were beautiful, nice, and cool. I love upstate New York. I mean, I love the Hudson River Valley. I took that train right through the valley before we went to the resort to discuss how can we all get along and get together. I loved it out there. You guys have, I didn't know New York was so damn beautiful upstate. I didn't know. Anyhow, continuing. Alistair Water says, no laws making them either. Here you girl. All right, Michael Rudnin says, 93 degrees feels like 100. I'm inside with the AC doing nothing. I hear you, buddy. Sometimes it gets so hot out here. That's exactly what you want to do. Absolutely nothing. Eric Hayes says, what is ecological about salt water? Maybe they can sue the sun to not dry up. What's ecological about salt water? Don't you know there are animals and so forth that live in that environment? You know, it's not only fresh. Yes, we drink fresh water, but don't. A whole ecosystem occurs in the sea, the salt sea. That is mostly what we have, the salted sea. Yeah. So no, it's ecological. In fact, I've flown over the Great Salt, the Salt Lake, going to Salt Lake City, and see all the plants and stuff in there. I just don't know if there's any kind of fish in that particular isolated Salt Lake or not. I don't know. All right, let's see what else we got here. Para ver, Peggy Lopez says, Melanie Keelan, Bridge MCP. Cooler here now and staying pain-free. I'm glad to hear that. Paul Fleming says, in the last gasp of the Jim Crow era, the Shoe Lane community consisted of a church and about 20 black families, including teachers, dentists, a high school principal, and a NASA engineer. The enclave population was about to grow, but geography and racism were against them. Shoe Lane lay beside one of the city's most affluent white sections. Aware that more black families would be moving in the area, the city council wielded its most powerful weapon, eminent domain, ProPublica.li. Oh, that should be an interesting story. Tell us more. Let's see what else we got here. AVQ says he's switching to YouTube. Let's see. Eric A., sorry about your slab, but get a structural engineer to see if it just doesn't take a level company idea. If it's to see it, don't just take a level company idea. Explain, please. Egberto, were you watering your slab? No, I wasn't watering my slab. Is that terrible of me? It's a minute. If that would have solved the problem before it occurred, I made a horrendous mistake because it's going to cost me dearly. But the guy told me that probably watering would not have solved the issue. So he's the expert. He said, nah, in this case, he said he's getting a whole lot of calls in Kingwood because of slab problems, because of this drought that we've had. All right, let's see. Bridge MCP said, Hudson Valley is 3 hours south of me. I'm closer to Canada. Oh, wow. All right. Paul Femin says, over the next 14 months will be the most critical in our lifetimes, and I just have one question for us all. What will we do to try to maintain democracy in our country, make sure that Trump isn't elected, and but it's not only Trump. We have to make sure that most of those Republicans, specifically MAGA Republicans, do not make it into office. Tom C. says, what is Texas slab? Are you talking about the house foundation? Yes, it is the house foundation. We build concrete and then it's surrounded by a molded beam. And also you have the molded beam in the center. And when the mud, because, we're built, Houston is mud, right? They call it Louisiana clay or whatever they want to call it. You build on top of that, and when it shifts, it can crack, and that's what happens. Yeah. Utah State Parks from Michael Rudnin. How salty is Great Salt Lake? Farmington Bay says 5%, South Arm is 8 to 15%, and the North Arm is 28%. The differences are due to fresh water flowing into the southern part of the lake and not being able to flow freely into the North Arm due to the railroad causeway. Well, thank you for that information. I love learning about these different things. All right, Michael Run is also Utah wildlife. Because of the abundant algae and halophiles as well as the high salinity, the lake does not support fish, but it teems with brine shrimp and brine flies, which which provide essential nutrition for migrating birds. Thank you for that info. That is an ecosystem, Eric Hayes. That is what I'm talking about. It has grasses and all these other things, and other living creatures come in. It is a part of the life flow out there. Paul Fleming says the Fulton County DA's office told a judge they expect the trial against the 19 defendants in Georgia's election interference case will take 4 months, not including jury selection, and that the state plans to call over 150 witnesses. Wow. Eric Hayes says, how big a crack in your lawn from your yard to slab? And not a lot. Actually, at the base of the slab itself, we're only talking about something that looks like a hairline crack. But you know, when you have a house that is very high, it goes like that, because if you have a crack that as it goes up higher, it's progressively wider. Okay, let's see. Alistair Water says, good guy, Eric Hayes. All right, we got here. E2247 says, Restream, I didn't read that one. Daniel Lido says, y'all got a big job ahead of you trying to stop us from destroying democracy. Yes, we do, Daniel Lido, and you should be a part of the family to do that as well, my dear brother Daniel Ledo. Eric Hayes says, mosquitoes in salt water? I guess so. Egberto, that sentiment you just mentioned has some has a name, de-Trumpification. Thank you, Michael Rudnin. De-Trumpification. I love the word. I love the word. All right, folks, what else is up? Today, I am dependent on you keeping the product active, the program active with your information, with your stories. If anybody wants to give me a call at 281-823-7747, I would love to hear from you. I want to start hearing more from my peeps on this program. I would love to start taking more voice calls as well. I don't want to be the only one talking all the time. I like to listen to what you have to say. So whether you're listening to us on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, why don't you give us a call? Let us know how you're doing, or let us know something that you want to talk about. We are all ears here for you, because we want to hear your voice if you so want to have us hear your voice. So anyhow, folks, I have my first video about to come in now. It's going to be about, let me set it up. Nancy Grace is a Republican, and she tries to play it. She tries to make you believe that she is playing it right down the middle. She wants you to believe that, hey, I am okay. I am not like MAGA folks. But sometimes, as the video will show, you really can't distinguish who she is. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to play the suburban people side at the same time that she plays the other side. So I want you to listen to this piece from Dana Bash, and then we will take it on the other side.
She went public about her rape during an abortion debate while serving in the South Carolina State House.
Victims like me.
It's why she is so vocal about exceptions for abortion bans now.
As a Republican woman today in 2023, this is a very lonely place to be, because I feel like that I'm the only woman on our side of the aisle advocating for things that all women should care about. No woman wants to go to the doctor and make the decision that she's going to have an abortion. Nobody wants that. And what are we doing to ensure that she doesn't have to make that decision? What are we doing about the foster care system? What are we doing about childcare? We're doing none of those things without
changing what you just described. Are Republicans doomed in moderate districts like yours?
I think they're walking the plank.
Mace certainly has eye-rolling critics who hear that and look at her voting record and see a disconnect. She largely votes with her party, even on bills where abortion rights are at stake. She insists she's extracted changes from party leaders.
But I think I get labeled a flip-flopper unfairly because of that. I have my own ideology that I believe in. I'll take the vote. That doesn't mean I want to take the vote. I have been very effective at trying to push the ball, not always, but doing the best that I can. I'm only one person. And a lot of times I'm doing it alone and by myself. I would love to have more folks join us too.
There's also the issue of the former president. On the one hand, she boasts about beating a Trump-endorsed primary challenger.
We won resoundingly. We won by almost 10 points.
On the other, she goes on TV sounding a lot like Trump's staunchest allies.
There were two tiers of justice. It's a double standard. Hillary wasn't treated the same way.
Leveling accusations about the Biden family.
Racketeering, RICO, money laundering. One of the most corrupt presidents, made a lot of money off of Joe Biden.
Sometimes when I hear you, I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds like the Nancy Mace who I saw and heard on some issues. But other times you sound like the people who you say make you a very lonely Republican.
Well, it is absolutely lonely. It's by issue for me, and I want to call it like I see it. And sometimes I'm going to be over here, and then sometimes I'm going to be over here. And it could feel like ping pong sometimes, that I'm trying to be consistent.
And it's not you being a very savvy politician and going out there and pushing hard on some areas, but also doing a little base maintenance in others.
I would say I don't do anything on purpose.
I would say I don't do anything on purpose. Of course you don't do anything on purpose. You just do it purposefully. That's all. You just do it purposefully. As you see, she presents herself as MAGA when she needs to, but when she is around her suburban protege, she starts to think, maybe I need to be a bit more cautious in the way I address things. Exactly. That is what it's all about. Let me explain why. Let's go ahead and start back going to the pieces here. We have Daniel Ledo says, y'all got a big job ahead of you to stop destroying democracy. Yeah, we have a big job ahead of us. And you know what? We are up for the task. Okay. Paul Fleming says, as the MAGA team starts imploding, you will find more of the defendants pointing the finger to the chief said that he gave them their walking orders. Now they are behind bars and probably will cooperate to lessen their sentences. Yep, all these people that thought they were badasses are now behind bars and they're crying, please, please, have mercy on me. You wonder why they aren't showing up at the courthouse for Donald Trump. You wonder why there aren't these big groups of people saying, don't put away our Führer. Please don't put away our Führer. You know why? Because they realize, you break the law, you're going to go to jail. All right. You guys for a long time thought because you had your Führer, Trump was there waiting for you, that somehow you could get away with doing whatever you could. But let me give a warning to our democratic loving people. Don't think that Trump is done yet. Trump could still win this thing with the right. Even if we get 10 million votes over Trump, if he wins in certain states, he can lose the popular vote by 10 million and still win the election, because we're not a democracy. When the founding fathers created this country, they created it in such a manner that a minority of powerful people, by strategically working the system, could win. And that's how Trump won the first time. That is how Bush #2 won his first election. Again, not by majority vote, but simply by losing and winning in the right place. All right, Michael Ronan says, Daniel Ledo thinks he's joking, trolling. But we are up against a movement that wants to overthrow democracy. January 6th taught some MAGA hats nothing. We know that. They believe in autocracy. We are clairvoyant. They do believe in autocracy. My way or the highway. Bruce Pollard is in the house. He says, happy hump day. Thank you, Bruce. Eric Hayes, just like misinformation or disinformation or defunding police, all left-word choice. I don't know what you're talking about, so I'll move on. Daniel Lado wants me to stop calling him brother. Well, Daniel, let me tell you the brother story. I consider all Americans, all people of the world, my brothers and my sisters. It is my psychological catalyst to make sure that I love on everybody that are not politicians doing us harm, because those folks, I will do whatever is necessary to make things right. So I don't forgive them. But the everyday American citizen, whether MAGA or otherwise, I consider them brothers and sisters. It's the only thing I can do to make sure that the evil some people do in the name of MAGA, in the name of any other things, that I don't do something that would make me hate myself at some time, that I don't do something or say something that would that will mess with my own humanity. So by looking at you as a brother, Mr. Ledo, as prodigal as you are, by considering you a brother, sir, it makes me see the good that you can be and not what so far you have allowed MAGA, and before MAGA, the Tea Party, to do to you. He says as well, all the other guys at the weekly Kingwood fascist meeting are starting to think I may have dual loyalties. You don't have dual loyalties. I know you, brother. You're not a bad person. You want to be, but you're not a bad person. All right. Bridge MCP says, yes, stop calling him brother. Call him sister. Nah, I won't do that. Joshua Robinson, welcome to Politics Done Right, says, Rochelle Vanterpool, Rochelle, just, Teresa, come now. Are you here? Just, Teresa, are you here? What is that about? You just lost me. Okay. And you keep saying the same thing. What is that supposed to mean? I don't know, Joshua. Help me. Paul Fleming says, replying to Hayes, if your Republican Party is talking about defunding the FBI and CIA, who is talking about defunding the police again? You nailed it, Paul. Democrats are talking about reorganization of how we spend money in the police force. Your party just want to take it away altogether, listening to your own shows. That's what they're telling you. Exactamente. All right, what else we got here? We have Eric K. We got Bridie says she isn't here, Joshua Robinson. Who are we talking about? I don't know who we're talking about. Daniel says, Paul Fleming, no joke. Fascist doesn't screw around. You are all in or all out. I desperately need to stay in. My self-esteem and my self-worth are intimately tied to approval from my compatriots. Whoa. I hope you're being sarcastic. Lee Grant says, I like Nancy Mace. We need more hot women in... Why didn't I pre-read that? Come on, Lee Grant. Let's see what else we got here. At the rate in which people of color are being killed by police, this from Fleming, and their unarmed calls for diversification of the police department, that's all we're saying. Brother, that's all we're saying. People have to first believe that police officers are biased against people who look like me. You have to remember that. Some people just don't believe that. All right, Michael Rudnin says, softball interview. Egberto, why show that? I don't think it was a softball interview. I think she came on, and I think what Dana Bash did, not because she was kind, respectful, and civil with Nancy Mace, doesn't mean that she didn't expose Nancy Mace. In fact, I thought that was the ideal way to expose somebody like Nancy Mace. They brought her on. She discussed about how a woman wouldn't want to do this and why the Republican Party is walking the plank. And then Dana Bash showed all the crazy things she herself has said. So the sensible person watching that program, Michael Rudnin, right? You're sensible. the person that's leaning on the fence that may vote for Nancy can look at that and see it's not a hit job on Nancy. What it is to show that Nancy is no different than other MAGA folks when she needs to be, when she wants to be. In other words, she has no core. And I think Dana Bash, without raising her voice, did a good job. And that is what, when I saw that on Sunday, I'm like, Dana, for talking to Nancy Grace, a lot of Republicans would hear that interview and they wouldn't say, there goes another liberal attacking Nancy Grace, because, Dana Bash is really a Republican. But they won't say that, right? They'll come out and they'll say, look, it's a calm interview. That's what it's all about. All right. Paul Fleming says, at the rate in which people of color, I think I saw that one already. Okay, Georgia Judge McAfee did not sever either Cheeseboro and Parle from the 17th today, but more hearings to come. What he actually did was he just prevented Cheeseboro from moving away from, I can't remember her name. In other words, they kept those two cases together. And justifiably so, right? Justifiably so. It is actually a RICO case, and if it's going to be a RICO case, it needs to be a RICO case. All right, let's see what else we got here. Tom Zarnick, how you doing, my brother? New Limerick. So I thank you for warning me so that I can read it appropriately. Trump's mugshot expression is sinister. Let's start again. Trump mugshot expression is a sinister scroll. Gives an accurate impression of his mood most foul. Supporters still dote on him, will continue to vote for him till he abandons oppression and throws in the towel. I love it. Man, you are so good at writing these things so quickly. I love it. I love it. I hope you put it on the website like you always do. Add it to your group of limericks at politicsdoneright.com. Joshua Robinson says, isn't here. You're Teresa. Are you here? Talk to me. I don't think so. Joshua, who are you, Joshua? All right. Danielle says, Paul Fleming, do you understand the difference between local and state power? Of course we do. We understand the difference between local, state, and federal power. Don't forget. Bruce Pollard says, can we review Robert Kennedy's merit? What are we talking about there, Bruce? I think you mean Robert Kennedy, right? I don't know what you mean, but as far as Robert Kennedy is concerned, I can't... Look, I have been taking a lot of flack at KPFT because folks want me to interview Robert Kennedy Jr. And I said, because I, need to follow what my peeps are asking for, I said that I would go ahead and interview him. So I sent him... I sent his stuff to for an interview. I haven't heard back, so I've got to sort of like wait to see if they will answer at some time, etc., etc., etc. If they do, I will. But I don't particularly see a merit in him, but I will interview him if they respond. Let's see. Paul Fleming says, the state powers and their police departments have been more dangerous to people of color in this country than the federal government has to police all Americans. Yeah. Maywood says, good afternoon, everyone. Now that the show is half over, well, I'm glad that you're here. It doesn't matter if it's all over, you're here. Eric K says, autocracy is Washington policy. I think you need to reimagine, rediscover, figure out exactly what autocracy really means. I don't think you have. You may want to check that out. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Peggy Lopez. No. I skipped one. Michael says, Egberto reminds me of Thomas Paine. The world is my country. All mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion. I love that. I love that phrase. And it seems like you want that picture on the screen. We'll put the picture on the screen from Para ver Thomas Paine. If I can find the picture that you put on the screen, I think that's it right there. And let's get that picture on the screen from Thomas Paine. The world is my country. All mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Eric Hayes says, Egberto, would you want to win a race or just finish and get a participation trophy? I want to win a race, but I also appreciate if I did well, meaning if I did what I needed to do, I can accept a participation trophy as well. I don't have a problem with a participation trophy that says I did participate. I don't know what you mean by that, though. Peggy Lopez says, anti-democratic push started with Reagan. Nothing new here except we are so far down that road, it is visible to everyone. Michael Rowan says, Berto, I tend to believe people when they show me who they are, and you should. Lee Grant says, is someone's son? I don't get that. All right. Saludos politics done right. That is from our one and only Roberto Luis. Roberto, te llamo más tarde. Hoy estaba con el tipo que me está arreglando la casa con tú sabes, el roto que tiene. Daniel Edo says, Egberto doesn't want to mess with his humanity. Odd. He is perfectly willing to compromise his humanity by accepting and encouraging the killing of human babies. That's out of your mouth, not mine. The humanist has a very specific idea of who gets to be human. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lido, for those comments. Daniel, that E2247. Daniel, we are all relatives. We just four variables that bind us all together, each to another. They are A, G, T, and C. In other words, our genes, brother. All right. Let's see. Bree says, Egberto Willis, Joshua Robinson, I put on timeout. Then messages were deleted. Thank you, brother. Roberto Lewis says, Egberto, sometimes you have to give the people what they want. Just don't call him bro. Well, I tell you what, man. If he doesn't want to be called bro, guess what, my dear brother Roberto? He doesn't have to be on my program. He doesn't have to be here. I enjoy that he's here, but he doesn't dictate my humanity on my show, right? I think we have to set up those types of limits, right? In other words, we don't let somebody else dictate what your humanity is going to be. It's a free country, and folks are willing to come, go, stay, whatever. So on that one, I hear you, my brother, and I know because we are brothers from Panama and all that. I understand what you're saying, but in this case, I'm not going to let him change the psychology that I use to maintain my humanity. All right. Michael Rudden says, we need a new slogan, hot bling mem style, defund the police, hire more social workers. You know what? You're right, Rudden. I see what you're going at, because defund the police allows them to mischaracterize exactly what you're trying to do. Exactly. Eric K says CNN and NPR and outgoers trying to engage the GOP. I don't know what you're saying there. But let's see. Let's continue. Daniel Little says to Ligra, Egberto thinks that someday I will drink the Kool-Aid and return to the leftist fold. The metaphor fails, as I have never been a leftist. You see, you are given labels. The thing about it is, I do know. Let me tell you what I do know. I do know that circumstances will direct you to certain positions. And those positions, in the long run, are likely to be the same positions that many of us here believe in. Take over, Robert. Finish that sentence for me, El Señor Rudden. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Roberto says, call him Señor. You will still respect him respectfully. One love, bro. All right, let's see. Melanie Keelan says he's very talented. Daniel Peggy Lopez says, do not interview him. Do not give him our oxygen. You know, I'm hearing from both sides of it. You know, I'm hearing from both sides. Egberto Willis, this is from Bridge MCP. New York PD to limit the force at protests after settling with civil rights groups. The New York Police Department has agreed to change its use of force policies in a settlement over 4 lawsuits stemming from the 2020 protests that followed the murder of George Floyd. According to the settlement reached with the New York Attorney General, the New York branch of the American Civil Rights Union, and the Legal Aid Society, the department will stop encircling protesters en masse and vary its response depending on conditions of protest. The New York PD also will create a new senior level position to oversee that effort and give broader protection to journalists covering protests. The settlement, the civil rights groups say, is a landmark agreement that offers a new form of policing for the target police. It's about time. You know, they treat progressive protesters like they're thugs, when the ones that are killing people are the right-wing protesters, as that little punk that killed those 2 protesters during the problems in Wisconsin did. I don't remember his name right now. All right, Paul Fleming says, please show us there's been proof of the deep state. Please produce the evidence, then I might consider believing it. There's no evidence of no deep state. That is another way that the right wing control its people. Oh, be scared, be scared. Carol Sanders, welcome to Politics Done Right. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Daniel Ado says, should the government forgive my COVID SBA loan as well? Actually, you want my real answer for that, Daniel? If you took out a COVID SBA loan, because the government has forgiven all these, I don't remember the name that they call them, my answer to you is, yes, they should. Yes, they should. It was a critical moment in our history where we had to think outside of the box. Some people got off, some people didn't. Yeah, I am for it. Corporations made a killing out of that. So yeah, I'm with you there. So yeah, absolutely so. And that I don't qualify, but hey, I don't. It's not because I don't qualify mean I'm not gonna be on your side. But anyhow, all right, there you go, Michael Ronan. Defund the police, hire more social workers. I like the meme. There it is on the screen. All right, Peggy Lopez says, the first time I saw the police encircle the protesters was when I was at a Democratic National Convention. I remember that. Michael Ronan, this page isn't redirecting properly. I don't have much control over that. Paul Fleming says, well, bureaucrats in Poland's anti-immigrant nationalist ruling party, the same one ostensibly building walls on the borders, are suspected of selling visas and thus bringing more than 200,000 non-European into Poland last year. See? But remember, I had a guy write immigration policy, and he said, I want to write the immigration policy, but I wanted to do it the Republican way. That's what he was talking about. That's what he was talking about. All right, I want to remind folks, everybody had fallen in love with our Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy is a guy that, you know, he really talks a lot. He really talks a lot, and he thinks he knows what he's talking about. But you know what he said recently? I am only in this for, I really don't care about the Republican Party. I don't care about any of that. Let me tell you what I care about. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Our colleague Kyung Law was with him, and he was very blunt about how he views his place in the GOP.
I'm not a party man.
Yeah, you said that.
I'm using the Republican Party as a vehicle to advance an America First agenda, but I have a true distaste for professional politicians wherever they come from. So I sort of cringe a little bit when we frame everything in terms of partisan terms. That's not how I see it.
That is as Trumpy an answer as you can get without the kind of more bloviated rhetoric that comes with Donald Trump. That's the core of Donald Trump's message. And as Vivek has tried to emulate Trump in so many ways, it's not surprising that he's saying the quiet part out loud. Not a traditional Republican, doesn't really care about the party. This is all a vehicle. And as we've seen people running more and more for office to become famous, this is a perfect example of that.
Yes. It's a perfect example of somebody who wants to use a party to become famous. Why am I showing that? Because, you know, somehow Vivek had taken off like he was going to be savior of the party, away from Trump and the Trumpian methodology. Well, no. Vivek Ramaswamy is a more articulate Trump. He's a much more intelligent Trump. And if he were to catch on, I don't think he will. If he were to catch on, I think he would be an interesting character. A very interesting character. Anyway, continuing. Daniel Lido says, can I ask how leftists expect to maintain a loan industry in the norm becomes forgiveness? No, the norm is not forgiveness. I just explained that COVID was a special situation where we needed to explode the money supply. I just said it. Because our economic system froze up. I mean, this is not the first time I'm talking about this. So I have no problems that our economic system didn't crash, but to have a lot of these little private companies who took out $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 loans, and they're going to pay it back. You know, they took these loans out because we had a situation where a pandemic came, something no one expected came, right? Think about it. No, but this one isn't clickbait, Bridge, because I had a question about these loans before, and people don't understand why I say the things I say with respect to, let's say, the COVID type loans. It was a special situation, and I want COVID to be ground zero. In other words, like a reset point. Just like how bankruptcy is a reset point for corporations and companies, I would love for what we had to do to keep the capitalist economy, which is what we still are, from crashing. In other words, I would like to call it state zero. So no, Mr. Ledo, it's not about trying to maintain the thing. It's just about trying to fulfill or repair the flaws of a failed economic system. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lee Grant says, Vivek's 10th commandment. The U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. Really? Under the U.S. Constitution, the original U.S. Constitution before we got the 10th, 14th commandment, right? Not the 10th, the 13th, 14th commandment. It didn't guarantee freedom for a whole lot of people. Please, that's why we need to teach history, Brother Grant. No, the Constitution is not it's not that document that was ever free and freed people. No, it was never that document. It was a capital document. Please read the Constitution. Don't just repeat what people say about the Constitution. Read it. The Constitution, the initial instantiation did not give a whole lot of freedoms. In fact, it didn't get ratified until we got the first 10 amendments. And what did the 10 amendments do? Freedom of the press, freedom freedom to own a gun. A lot of these other freedoms had to be given within the 10 commandments because the Constitution, power as written, didn't. Come on, this is American history. And that a lot of folks don't know American history is exactly what Republicans want. And when they don't want to teach history as it should be, that's exactly what they want. Hell, we are up to the 28th commandment right now. And why? To give more freedoms. We had to give freedoms to women. We had to give freedoms to non-white men with property owning characteristics to be able to vote. It was not the document of freedom. It was not the strongest guarantor of freedom in history. That is a propaganda statement. Okay? That's all. A propaganda statement. Now we are building the Constitution to make more freedoms. Women got it with the 19th Amendment. I don't remember. I think it's the 14th Amendment that black men got it to vote. I mean, let's be real, people. Just saying something does not make it so. No, the Constitution was such a flawed document that it made me 3/5 of a person. The Constitution was such a flawed document that women could not vote. The Constitution was such a flawed document that people of color, specifically black people, couldn't vote. Okay? Please read and stop just regurgitating stuff that comes out from Glory, Glory, Hallelujah people. Hell, even the Star Spangled Banner. Read the third. You know, you wonder why that guy knelt down, and said he won't sing the Star Spangled Banner. Think about, why should a black person sing the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner? I want you to just go read it. Read the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner. Why should you sing it? Let me go ahead and look it up. Third verse of national anthem. Okay? I mean, people just say things. Thank you for Colin Copernica. You know, what is the third stanza? A home and a country should leave us no more. Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps, pollution, or the land of the free and home of the brave. This seldom sung stanza asks where the people who are thought war would bring the destruction of this relatively new country. Please, folks, por favor, read. That's all you got to do. Read. And whenever people talk about not wanting to teach critical race theory or not wanting to teach critical thinking, it's because they don't want you educated. Paul Fleming says we can't let bureaucracy get in the way of doing the right thing. Pedrianos Pilat, Representative Dila Ramirez and I are leading the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and are continuing call for President to designate TPS and extend the re-registration period. Thank you. Bruce Pollard says, so Banner was not written by founding fathers. No, it doesn't. I know the Star Spangled Banner wasn't written by the founding fathers, but me being 3/5 of a man was written by the founding fathers. Okay? Women, that there was no provisions for women to vote was written by the founding fathers. You know, that we don't have a real democracy by having two senators for per state, no matter how many people are in that state, was written by the founding fathers. The Electoral College was written by the founding fathers. So there are a lot of flaws. There are a whole lot of flaws in this Constitution that Lee Grant want to make believe was the best document of freedom in the world. It was not. It was not. And if we keep lying to ourselves, people from around the world would continue to tell us, oh my God, you guys, we are foreigners and we know about your Constitution. Why don't you? You know, that's what a lot of them say. You know, they would laugh when they hear some of these people talk about, you know, it's just like I was watching a program the other day that says, oh, the United States has the safest food supply. Really? I think you should go compare compare the regulations in Europe for lettuce and poultry, etc., and the regulations in the United States, and ask yourself, who really has safer food? Just saying things don't make it so, and we love to say things. Now, we should make it so. Michael Ruddin said the original intent of the founding fathers was for only rich white land-owning adult men should have voting rights. The history of democracy is the extension of inclusion. Yes, we the program, the documentary that we made at Move to Amend, Legalize Democracy, actually gives the path how we became more democratic. We use the Supreme Court. We use all these different entities to become more democratic. Bruce Pollard said, those are facts. The SSB is a song written later than many people never heard their third stanza. We have a lot of SSBinos. What are SSBinos again? SSB. What is SSB? I don't know what SSB is. Help me out. Daniel says, okay, Egberto, what was the best freedom document ever written? You ever try to read go try reading the Constitution of South Africa. Okay? It's modern and it gives a lot of freedom. Please do. So no, there are documents out there that are more democratic than ours. You want another one? Go to Costa Rica and talk about how they've implemented a social state without at a very low cost. So I mean, the problem here is too many of us just don't know. And when we try to teach, we have Republicans and MAGA not wanting Americans to learn the truth. It's that simple, right? So please, 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 I beg thee, Read. I beg thee, read. The answers are simple. The Constitution was never the best democratic document ever written. I mean, it's a good document because it can be modified, and which what we've been done to give people more rights, women the ability to vote, people of color the ability to vote. We don't have the best, the safest food in the world. We need to work on that. Now that we know that Europe has better salmonella control and all of that, we should consider adapting those type of features. So let's get real. Michael Rudin says, The Guardian, U.S. cosmetics are full of chemicals banned by Europe. Why? A long list of potentially harmful ingredients banned in the EU are legally allowed in the U.S. due to historically relaxed regulations. Exactly. Carol Sanders says, I have a Costa Rican friend named Mauro, but I don't know anything about the place, just play soccer together here in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, let me tell you something that I like in Costa Rica that we don't have here. I'm from Panama, the country next to Costa Rica. Costa Rica is more democratic than is Panama. Okay. Now, if you take a look at their healthcare, right? Every Costa Rican has a person that visits them at least once a year to check on their health, their condition, the changes from one year to the next. In other words, they are proactive with their health. We don't do that. If you don't have money to pay, you just don't see a damn doctor. If you get sick, and you don't have the money, yeah, the emergency room will patch you up a little bit and then tell you to get the hell out of there. But in these other countries like Costa Rica, they don't nearly have the technology we do. But you know what they have? The humanity. They have the humanity. Something that capitalism lacks. Capitalism, it's all about turning everything into capital, or the maximization of capital. Michael says there is a whole list of harmful additives that are legal in the United States that span in Europe. True. Carol Sanders says Legatum World Prosperity Rankings rank U.S. number 69th among compared countries. There you go. Ira K says CNN pushed Fauci to the limit on the mask. I don't know what you're talking about. And Michael Ronan says, reminder that in the U.S., a medical emergency is the leading cause of bankruptcy. We have 500,000 medical bankruptcies per year. No other nation faces this problem. It's a horror. And as long as we continue to put our heads in the sand, as long as we continue to allow these plutocrats to fool us into believing, glory, glory, hallelujah, we are the best thing since apple pie, even though we have salmonella and E. coli running around on our vegetables and our meats, even though we don't have the same controls that Europe have on their food, even though we don't have somebody that checks up on us every year to make sure that we're healthy, even though our voting system tries to put a whole lot of roadblocks that you have to register for to be able to vote, as opposed to just say, if you're here legally, go vote. No. We have to learn the truth. And if we learn the truth, just maybe we can get rid of these crazy politicians. Anyway, people, we are almost done with the program. I want to ask you so kindly to support us however you can. If you want to support this program, please go to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. The one thing I promise you is the unadulterated truth. Every now and then I may make a mistake. If I do, I promise you to correct it immediately. But please support the program. Make sure that we can stay alive. politicsdoneright.com/support. I would like to ask you a coffee a month. Get our newsletter. Get a paid copy of our newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That really helps us to continue doing what we do. We send out the newsletter every morning at 5 o'clock, every weekday morning at 5 in the morning with what the program is going to be on the KPFT show at 6 in the morning. And of course, we send you good teasers on the newsletter. Anybody who subscribed to our newsletter, get a paid subscription, you have access to all our books that I've written. In other words, you'd have an electronic copy that you can read right at my newsletter, the Substack. All right. Bridge MCP says New York Kaplan ruled Wednesday, but there's no longer a question as to whether Trump defamed Carroll in 2019 and that the trial schedule for January will merely determine what further damage Carroll is owed. Trump denies defaming Carroll and opposed to her notion seeking to limit the January trial to damages. It's going to be damaged, and he will get it. Peggy Lopez says, more bankruptcy for medical costs means doctors and hospitals will not get paid. Maybe if they lose enough, they will get a single-payer health care. That we can hope for. Anyway, folks, please, please, please subscribe to my newsletter. I want to ask you so kindly. The paid copy is pretty inexpensive, and it allows us to continue doing what we're doing. And again, you get full access to all of my current books and my future books, which I'm writing three. I have three more in the 3 more books in the lane. So please subscribe, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know, you really know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.